Today, Trump will personally attempt to convince House GOP holdouts to back his bill before the July 4th deadline. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Armin Kurdigan, U.S. Navy captain retired and California State Senate seat candidate. Good to see you, Mr. Kurdigan.
Good afternoon, Guy.
All right, let's jump right into this. In this case, we know that House leaders are really working to get members back to Washington, D.C. Why? Because they're next up in order to cast this vote. Do you think it will happen, sir?
Well, they'll definitely have a vote. The question is it's going to pass? You've got folks in the Republican caucus, 20 or 30 of them, that are really, really torn right now. They understand that it's very, very dangerous for us not to have a budget this late in the fiscal year. I mean, we are in the fourth fiscal quarter already, but they're also very concerned about the amount of the deficit spending, or basically the increase to the national debt, which is a very, very serious problem. And we keep seeing this over and over again, no matter who's actually in charge of Congress. The last time we were able to really get meaningful deficit reduction work was back in 1995 and 1996. So it's going to remain to be seen what actually happens. Ultimately, I do believe that the bill is going to pass, but it's going to leave probably a bad taste in a lot of folks' mouth.
The roughly multi-trillion-dollar bill, Armin, would unlock tax cuts and funding boosts for national security, partly paid for by the largest cut to the federal safety net in decades. Your take on that?
So there's two things going on. First of all, it's true. A lot of the tax cuts that are going to be out there are really going to affect and improve the lives of working class families who are, two or three kids in their household, both parents are working, extended child credits. You're going to have extension of the standard deduction, expansion of 529s, a lot of things which working family needs in order to make their lives go better and go forward. A lot of the concern about the cuts to the safety net. Let's remember that that safety net was very widely expanded under the last administration by executive order. Just tens of millions of new people were put onto the rolls for Medicaid, Medicare, non-citizens getting a lot of these benefits. So essentially, what's being happened is they're rolling back some of these expansions, many of which were unwarranted and without any means testing to these folks, which will eventually bring the spending back down. You see, the more and more money you give out, the more and more money and benefits people actually want. So I think it's actually a good thing to rein that back in. But also, the healthcare system's got to do their part in bringing costs down.
Armin, you heard me make mention of the Sean P. Diddy Combs sex crimes trial. That's happening in New York City. I want to move over to Brooklyn in this case, one of the courtrooms there. We know that a federal judge there has blocked the Trump administration's attempt to end temporary protected status for Haitian migrants ahead of schedule, ruling that the Department of Homeland Security, in essence, violated the law in its rush to strip deportation protections and work permits from over 500,000 people. Your response to that?
Well, let's face it, these four countries, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Haiti, they are not good places to live. Haiti is a failed state, and a lot of folks came to this country. I think some of them do have legitimate requests for asylum. However, once again, the Biden administration just went way overboard, just bringing everybody in. And frankly, just because you have a poor life in one country is not a valid grounds for asylum. So you've got a little bit of an issue here. I think perhaps a little bit more time to look at some of these claims would be warranted. But ultimately, I think the administration is going to get its way, and a lot of these people are going to get shipped back to Haiti because, as sad as the state is, we simply can't absorb that many people all at once from these other countries simply because they're poor and impoverished, or they have really, really bad governments, or no governments whatsoever.
Armin will end with this, and that is the saying, can't we all get along? Apparently, that's not the case between President Trump and the head of the Fed, Mr. Jerome Powell. We now know that Mr. Powell is stating that the Fed would have cut U.S. interest rates by now if it were not for Trump's tariffs. That, according to him, as it happened. Your response to that, sir?
Well, that might be the case with some of the inflation predictions, but we see where tariffs are right now. They haven't really had that big of an impact in inflation. I don't think they really are, and a lot of economists don't think they are. The Fed is behind in cutting interest rates, but at the same time, the Congress and the White House are behind in bringing back deficit reduction. If we keep spending at this rate, the rates are sadly going to stay where they are because printing a lot of money, that probably has a lot more of a greater impact on inflation than tariffs did. We saw what happened with $1.2 trillion of additional spending in the Green New Deal. We saw $6 trillion of COVID spending, some of which was warranted, but others, hundreds of billions, probably a couple of trillion was probably wasted where it didn't need to go. So if the government keeps spending at its current rate, it's going to be very hard for the Fed to bring interest rates down, which in turn is going to keep our interest payments very, very high. It is an exceptionally heavy break and ball and chain on our economy. Until that happens, ultimately, it's the American people who are going to suffer either directly or indirectly.
And yet again, something we'll have to keep a very close eye on. Mr. Armin Kurdigan, U.S. Navy captain, retired and political strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, my friend.
You too, Guy. Thanks. Have a great day.